There we go, y'all. My computer froze on me. I didn't know what I was doing. Hey, Nikkei. You're on mute.
I
How are you tonight?
I am good. How are y'all?
Whew. I am breathing and grateful for being able to breathe. So, tonight we are looking at rallies and protests. I had the honor and privilege of participating in a rally the other day that, well, first of all, if you've never rallied with people, members of the NAACP and some of these activists and organizers for justice, then you're missing out. Like, it's invigorating. It's a different feeling, and I got to experience that a couple of months ago. The first time that I actually got out there and rallied and protested, and the other day we were out there rallying. And I know Nikkei, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you go out with Black Lives Matters?
Yes, I used to go out with That was before. It was right after college. Recently, the only thing I've done is the rally that we did at the city council in Atlanta.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that one. I was thinking about I went out. Who did I go out with? Jimmy Hill. He's going to be our guest tonight. We're going to have an update with Kevin Upkins, and we're also going to have an update on Jimmy Hill. They've both been on the show before. And so, what that looks like is Kevin Upkins, he's been fighting for his life. He's literally been incarcerated for way too long, um, serving life in prison for armed robbery with no weapon. And in saying all of that, life in prison, no weapon. Think about it. And he's been in there reaching out to different people through social media platforms, through his music, through lately he's had people advocating for him, lobbying for him. He's doing whatever he needs to do to get out of prison and to free other people as well. So yeah, Nikkei, I see you, Nikkei. I see Chief. I don't need to say that too loud. Um, Here he comes.
Yeah, you already know how that goes.
Yep.
But yes,
So
it is a shame how long Kevin has been there. I mean, this is a time limit that people serve for committing murders, and for the amount of evidence that they have against him, and for how they railroaded him, that it's despicable and definitely unjust.
and the fact that not only is he sitting in prison and he did not commit murder, he also did not harm anyone. There's been no one physically harmed inside of this whole quote unquote armed robbery. So hypothetically, let's say he did it, which I don't believe that he did, but hypothetically, let's say Kevin Upkins actually committed this crime. Zero people were hurt in this crime. Zero. So how is it that somebody who molests kids gets out in 10 years? How is it somebody who murders people gets out in 10 years or 20 years? How is this that somebody who even harms the police gets out? And we have someone where there's been no victim, meaning there's no one physically harmed, mentally harmed, emotionally harmed, because there's no one coming forward saying that they even that there was even a weapon.
I'm
So it's
pretty sure the victims have already received their reparations, and that everything is fine, and they're out probably thriving. Meanwhile, he is still being punished for this crime that he may or may have not. Even if he did, like you said, but he may have not done it, and he's still there. Why?
right.
It makes you think that it has to be personal. It has to be beyond the evidence. The sentencing has to be beyond the evidence, because there isn't enough evidence to. I mean, even the crime itself doesn't constitute this much time, so it doesn't. I don't know.
Well, it shows a lot of the lack of justice in our judicial system. It shows why Kevin Upkins and his entire team are fighting so hard, not only for his freedom, but for the freedom of others who are sitting in prison wrongfully incarcerated because there's a lack of justice around the way that Georgia sentences. Georgia sentences much harsher than any other state, one out of four people in Georgia have been incarcerated at some point, and the fact that he is sitting in prison, not jail, prison. And there was, I mean, it took 2 years before they properly, or 2 years before they even ID'd him, and that was with a lot of coercion. So, in saying that, um, oh, I see you, Marianne, in the comments. Um, but it just was a lot of coercion. It just was, yeah. So with that, we're talking about rallies. Like I said, rallies. What? Who said that? Who had that quote? Rally is the language. No, protests are the language of the unheard. That's a quote. Um, and with Kevin Upkins, we will be protesting, and so he's not there to bring him in. Um, Nike, can you hear? You're on mute. There's Kevin. All right, we're gonna bring him in. Hold on, Kevin. Hold on, I'm trying to bring you in. Okay. I'm having technical difficulties. Hmm,
Martin Luther King said riots
riots
are the
are the
language of
language of the unheard,
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
which we're going to talk about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King a little more during when we bring up Jimmy Hill as well in his case with Fannie Willis, the district attorney, who said Martin Luther King's been dead a long time. When they actually, yeah, that was her statement. When they referenced a Martin Luther King quote to her, as far as her not providing justice in his case, um, she literally said Martin Luther King Jr. has been dead a long time.
What?
Yeah, and she's our current district attorney. Let's see. I can't bring Kevin on right now. So let's talk about the Kevin Upkins case and about this rally coming up. His rally is scheduled for June the 22nd at Liberty Plaza. And he's asking for justice. He's asking for his freedom. He's asking for people to come together to discuss um, anything that's happening with them and their loved ones as well. Um, it's the 21st. Oh my gosh. I apologize, Marianne. I thought it was the 22nd. And I scheduled the 22nd in my calendar to be there. So I'm glad you updated it for me. It's the 21st. Oh, that is Tuesday, which is Tuesday the 21st in Liberty Plaza, which is located directly from across the street from the Capitol. Mary Ann has been going to the Capitol. She's been having conversations about Kevin Upkins, having conversations with elected officials. She's been rallying for him. She's been standing for him. She's been advocating for him in a way that most others would not and have not, including myself. I've had a lot going on, and Kevin is sitting there fighting for his freedom, and Marianne has stepped up, and she's been leading the way. Marianne, I don't know. Kevin, you keep getting kicked off. Let me see if we can get Marianne in here. Nikkei, would you like to share a little more about what you know about this case, if you know anything about it?
Yeah, so I recently read up on the Kevin Upkins case, and I mean, I don't know much more than available to the public. One thing I did notice is another hats off to Marianne and organizers affiliated with her because, um, as far as my history goes with researching cases and trying to find more information about people who are seeking exoneration or who are seeking legal representation to go against being um, targeted by the criminal justice system. This case is the most publicized, I would say, because there's a lot of literature out there to share his story. Let me say that. The Facebook, the change.org, the many petitions that are out there, and we can share some links later. Hopefully, we can get Marianne on to share some links also in different ways that people can support. But that's one thing that I did notice. So hats off to those who are advocating for him because I do feel like he has a great chance of of seeing justice, seeing outside again, being outside because like I said, he has a lot of great people behind him, and it's a lot of places. He has a lot of support. So
Yeah.
I
And
think
and one of the biggest things is most of that he's done on his own, such as turn that light on, such as such he's done that on his own, such as the change.org petition, such as the documentary, such as even deciding that he was going to create an actual rally that came from him, um, reaching out and doing whatever he needed to do to have his voice heard. So that is so important in this conversation. There's a lot of people, I've had people reaching out to me that Kevin has shared about our show and just about his experience. And I promise you, my first meeting this morning was at 7:30 a.m. and that was in person. So y'all see what my hair looked like. I don't think I have on any eyeliner anymore. The lipstick been gone. Lipstick was gone at 9 o'clock this morning. So I say all of that to say, it's just one of those things. Anika, you back on mute. But we gotta give kudos to Kevin for standing for himself and for really fighting for his freedom. I don't think that you would fight that hard if you did it. That not saying that there's people who are sitting in prison who are like, oh,
I didn't
I
not
need to get out.
responsibility, but
Yeah,
even still, like we said in Kevin's case, even if he did, the crime doesn't constitute the how long he's been sentenced.
not at all. Not at all. Because he's been sitting there for 12 years. 12 years. He has a child. He's away from his child. He's away from his family. So let's talk about this rally a little bit. With this rally, it's on the 21st. He has people coming from all over to support him being able to get his freedom, to see freedom, to experience having a butterfly land on his hand again in life, to experience being able to decide if he wants to take a 1 hour shower or a bubble bath, his freedom, things that most people take for granted. That's what's at stake, and that's what he's fighting for. 14 years. I'm sorry, Kevin. I thought you were in there for 12, going on 13 years. So it's been 14 years. 14 years. And his child is growing up without a father. That's what the prison system does. That's the intention of the prison system. Not to recidivize, not to rehabilitate, but to separate and have single parent households, whether it's single male, single female, put our kids in foster care, divide our families up. That's what the prison system does. And he is fighting for a chance to be able to raise another male, another black male, so that he doesn't go down this road. And that is what he is fighting for. That's what this is about. And he's standing for all the other men and women who are sitting in prison doing ridiculous time for charges that it's not warranted as far as the sentencing. And look, Kiana just popped in. I'm going to bring her in to talk about Kevin Upkins, and then we're going to talk about Jimmy Hill as well. Kiana, we talked about KK. How you doing tonight? You're on mute.
Hey y'all, thanks for having me and thanks for talking about KK.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
We are great. It
Thanks
is
so much.
it is always a pleasure to see you, to be around you, to be
Absolutely. Same, same.
yeah, I have so much respect and adoration for you as far as the stand. Kiana is that person who will go out there by herself with the bullhorn. She don't need a crowd. If she believes in you, if she wants to stand up for you, she'll be the Lone Ranger. That is who she is. And we were talking about KK the other day when I saw you a couple weeks ago when I saw you. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you coming to the
Mm-hmm.
rally? And we were sharing the different if you were in town, you said you were going to come out and support him because he reached out to you too, and I didn't even know that he'd reached out to you. I was like, he reached out to everybody. He making sure he get out of prison.
No, he definitely did. And I have to tell you, his story is very compelling. Unfortunately, it's not unlike things that we've heard before. And the hurting part is that this is so common in Georgia. It's so common throughout the United States in particular. And we have this epidemic of racist judges and district attorneys who lean on the side of white supremacy, and the racist and the prejudice coupled with the ineptitude of these officials is what oftentimes puts many of our loved ones in a position like KK, where they are wrongfully convicted. They have to serve year after year after year, decade after decade in prison. Sometimes, if they're fortunate, they will have people to advocate for them, and they'll be able to get those sentences overturned after many years. But there are so many people who are in prison right now, wrongfully convicted, who will never get out. And that's the heartbreaking part about it. When you look at KK's case and you think about the fact, and think about this right now in 2022, think about this from the lens of a young Emmett Till who was simply accused by a white woman of whistling at him. Think about the fact that KK sat in a courtroom amongst nothing but white people with a white woman who could not even identify who supposedly robbed her establishment at the time that the police questioned her. But all this time later, comes into a courtroom never having seen him before, and says, "That is the man that robbed my establishment with a gun." Forget about the fact that there was never a weapon found. How are you convicted of armed robbery where there's no weapon? And how do you have a fingerprint expert who's actually your expert that gets flipped to be a witness for the prosecution after that expert is denied the opportunity to even examine those fingerprints? And when he finally does, under the auspices of the state's attorney, now he has to become not only a hostile witness, but one of the key witnesses for the prosecution. How does this all happen? This all happens because KK was a black man who at the time didn't have the opportunity for decent representation. This all happened because KK was a black man who at the time had already been convicted of other crimes, and all of his other crimes were compiled on top of his head. Whereas if he was a white man, I guarantee you, none of his priors would have come into play. And that's one of the things that we really do need to change in this legal system, where your priors are allowed to be considered. I don't care if you murdered somebody yesterday, today is a new day. I don't care what you did 10 years ago. You're not the same person that you were 10 years ago, especially if you had already served time for
Right.
those crimes.
Well, the thought is you're not the same person. If Georgia, especially, if we're putting people in prison to be able to impact who they become in the future, if we're putting people in prison saying, I'm going to put you in this prison cell, in this small cell for the next 14 years of your life because we believe that you've done something heinous and we need to impact that. And we put people in these cells and let them out saying, oh, you're supposed to be someone different. That's the thought of the prison system. So if you were a murderer yesterday and today you're someone new, Guess what that means? If you're not, it means this prison system is failing the way that it's currently structured. And until we start advocating and really rallying for people to be recidivized for real and rehabilitated, then we're going to keep ending up with people going in and out of jails and prisons because the system isn't designed to actually heal anybody. The system creates
Absolutely.
more trauma. Kevin Upkins has been
Mhm.
sitting in prison a long time. And
Absolutely.
sometimes, I love me some KK. And you can sometimes he's 100% ready to fight, and then you start talking to him and it's 1999 all over again.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
they're keeping our people stuck in an era where they don't need to be. They don't get to live
Absolutely.
in prison.
Absolutely.
They're taking out the education programs, they're
Mhm.
taking out the trainings, they're making it, Kevin Upkins went and got him a paralegal certification while incarcerated. And he's standing to try to impact not just himself, but other people. And they're
Mhm.
sitting here making it seem as if there's almost something wrong with that.
Right, right. Actually, education is criminal for Black people. Whether
Hmm.
people know it or not, we are still living in those times where they do consider us slaves because they are making education criminal. So, this prison system, the carceral system that we have here, is designed, I believe, to do exactly what it's doing because we are the people who populate it most. When
Yes.
you look at the rate at which crimes are committed, a Black person and a white person can be convicted of the same crime, but that Black person is going to do more time. It doesn't matter where you are in the United States of America, that Black person is going to do more time. So what happens is that you have this cycle of Black people being locked up, and prison is designed to do what it does, which is in most cases break your spirit. It's
Hmm.
designed to make you give up hope. It's designed to make you feel like you can only get along in that carceral system because we have so many people who actually get out. They come back into society, and without adequate programs to successfully help them re-enter society and function within this society successfully, they will go back to the things that they used to do because in their minds, it's all about mindset. I know how to survive on the inside. I know how to get what I need there. I know how to protect myself there. I know how to get along in there. So that's the mentality that it's supposed to create. That's the atmosphere that they want to perpetuate within the prison system, that you can only get along in here, and that for some reason, this is actually where you belong.
Right. So then you keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it never stops. And then when you get released, they make it even more difficult. They stop providing housing. Now you have a felony. You can't live in these apartments. You can't afford to buy a house because you can't show 2 years worth of income. You don't have the credit because if you went in for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years or less, guess what? That car is now on your credit report. That apartment is on your credit report. Everything is on your credit report. So where do you live? Then we have this epidemic, pandemic problem with all of these people coming from under bridges. And then we have this issue with people laying out on Edgewood and everywhere else, and they don't understand why. And then we want to roll out money, but then it's like, where do we put these people? Where do we put the people coming in from prison, from jails, from institutions that have served their time? And then from there,
Mhm.
in addition to where do they live, where do they work? You go to
Oh, yeah.
prison for bank robbery. Who
Hmm.
is hiring you?
No one. So they want to put you back into an uncomfortable position. They want to make you a square peg in a round hole so that you don't fit. They want to make it so that all of your circumstances contribute to the recidivism. They want to make it so that you feel like you are so helplessly and haplessly placed that all you can do is to resort back to the same behavior that might have landed you where you were. So that way they keep you in that trap. That way you're on that never ending paradigm of going around
Whoa,
and
Kiana,
around in
Kiana,
this
Kiana, no,
carceral
no, 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 no,
system
no,
where
no,
all
because
they're
he gonna
doing is
vote him
getting
out.
money off of your body.
Hold on, he gonna just vote him out. That's what's gonna happen. You gonna get out of prison. You gonna vote him out. Go in on that one, Kiana.
You know, the thing that they want to do once you get out of prison, what they want you to do is to come back into society with no resources, with no help, so that you always stick out like the sore thumb. Not only do you stick out like the sore thumb, so you're constantly being judged improperly, but you feel like you are the sore thumb. You feel like the redheaded stepchild. And what do you do eventually? You behave like the redheaded stepchild, because the only option you see is to go back to the corner that you came from. Because again, you've already been indoctrinated with the mentality that you can only survive on the inside. You've already been indoctrinated with the mentality that you're only worth what you've been inside of a prison cell. So you go back to that and
Or
you're
you go
there.
to it for the first time.
Absolutely.
Because somewhere in prison you thought that that was an easy thing to do once
Mm-hmm.
you got out, because you had a conversation, you had a jail side, prison side chat with somebody that made it seem like
Absolutely.
this life of crime is really, that you really about that life. So
Oh,
now that becomes
absolutely.
easier than doing the right thing, because they aren't putting in place structures and programs to actually help us and to empower us and to keep brown and black people in the streets. We're supposed to be the
Absolutely.
minority, so how are we the majorities, especially in these privatized prisons where they have a count? People like Kevin Upkins, every single day that Kevin Upkins is in prison, every day they're making $100 a day off of him,
Absolutely. Money
whether
on
he's
that
sitting
body.
still, and that's before he orders anything from commissary. So
Mm-hmm.
that is
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Absolutely. Our bodies are worth
Anyway,
so much. Black people in this country, I don't think you understand how much you're really worth. Not only just because of who you are and what makes us black, right? But your body in that carceral system means so much money, private money coming from these private prisons. And then don't forget the government money that's going to be put on top of it. Your body means money. So these people who put us behind bars are deeply invested in keeping us there, right, wrong, or indifferent. They are constantly invested in keeping us there.
and let's not forget when they license, insure, and bond us once we go in, clank, clank. After that, you are property. So
And
if
then you're
you
counted in
die,
the
your organs go to them.
mm-hmm.
Your
And then you're
body does
counted in the
not return to
census.
sender, your mama or your daddy. Your body returns to whoever
Mm-hmm.
incarcerated you. And
Right,
usually
the
most of
state.
them have programs in place to go ahead and keep you incarcerated so that they can keep making money. They have insurance on your body. So
Yes,
even after you're long gone, they're still making money off of you.
that's right. And
This is
then they
what
count
Kevin
you in the
Upkins is fighting
census
for.
where you don't even vote.
Right. Because
You are
you are
counted
now,
in a
yep,
census. You are a number used for redistricting. And it just happened because we just had a census. So you are a number used for redistricting. And you don't even get to vote. And then they try to discourage you as much as they can once you come out of that system. If you're on
dirty
parole
com-
or probation, they discourage you as much as they can from registering to vote once you're off papers, because they want you to believe that if you're a felon, you can never vote again.
Mhm.
That's not true.
not at all. And
That is not true.
and you sat there with me at the Taylor English law firm, and this is the way that I talked there too. Kiana was like,
All the time. All the time. I love it.
I was
I
like,
love it.
I was like, hell no, y'all want black activists to come in and talk about how this voter participation law, voter suppression law,
Right,
however
right.
you want to phrase it, this
Mm-hmm.
is impacting us. These laws are killing us.
They are. They are. They really are. I don't know if people really understand the depth of the new laws that have been passed regarding voting, and that might be a completely different conversation. But these laws are seeking to even criminalize taking an absentee ballot of a relative to a ballot box. They're trying to call it ballot harvesting. And supposedly that's when you take more than one absentee ballot to a ballot box. Well, what if I'm married and I have 5 grown children who live in my house? I
But
can
What if I'm a
still put it down
polygamist with
to a
5
ballot box.
co-husbands?
But immediately they're referring these things to the GBI, and they have racist Republican watchdog groups like True the Vote who are actually watching and trying to bring litigation against people because of something as simple as dropping off more than one absentee ballot. If you all knew the things that I see going to different board of elections meetings when it comes down to black people being kept from voting, I know everybody would be on fire, because the level of ignorance and the simplicity of these white people is sickening. When I say sickening, I mean sickening. I've never seen dumber shit in my life.
Well, there
And
is some other dumber stuff. Go ahead, Nikkei Rebel.
me and Shantae, I'm sorry, but that's what me and Shantae were discussing on a previous episode about them taking away the Sunday vote or making counties choose
Yes.
the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally, it's almost, they're making it so obvious that they're trying to suppress the black vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
the
And you
ballot
have
boxes
groups
with
that
the
are
third. Go
you
ahead,
have
Kim.
groups that are challenging so many black votes in different counties. Forsyth County, history of pure, deeply inbred racism in Georgia. A group in Forsyth County challenging thousands of black votes for what? When the only confirmed cases of voter fraud in Georgia in the 2020 election were Trump's friends from Florida who used their properties, their rental properties in Georgia, to vote in Georgia as well as Florida. They never want to tell the truth about that. But there were no other confirmed cases of voter fraud. The only ones that came from white Republicans who supported Trump.
It's always that damn Florida. I remember
Mm-hmm.
years ago when Jeb Bush was governor in Florida.
Oh.
I actually, y'all, I'm about to take y'all there. Y'all know how I
Woo!
rose from St. Olaf. I got me a St. Olaf story. So it was Jeb Bush was supposed to be running for president, and he didn't
Mm-hmm.
run. And
Mm-hmm.
all of those ballots came up missing. What was there is people don't know. Like behind the scenes, I was a little black gal working 18 hours a day to come up with a solution to be able to address hurricanes Charlie, Jean, Francis, and Ivan, reporting to the insurance commissioner, which the insurance commissioner is actually owned by the state. And I say all of this to say people don't think that it's related. But what's there is
All
your
related.
insurance, like people were double dipping. So if a flood insurance took out your house and a rain insurance, you had rain insurance too, a flood insurance policy for hurricanes Charlie and Hurricane Jean, you got paid twice. So those $1 million houses, they got $2 million. I
Mm.
say it like this because all of those houses that were taken out where there was nothing left there, they were still able to vote. That's why all of those voting ballots ended up coming up lost. But if you're counting for your house more than once and
Right.
your household more than once, those numbers are being counted more than once. And there
Absolutely.
aren't that many not saying there aren't, but most of those multi-million dollar houses on the beach didn't look
Mm-hmm.
like us. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
like inside of that conversation, people don't understand just how much this is so relevant and related. What you talking about, Marion? I was in a board meeting today in Atlanta, and they were speaking on the board having issues with having to have meetings on Memorial Day and Sundays. That is your job. Tell them again, Marianne, do your job. We
It
voted y'all in
absolutely
office.
is.
We expect y'all to do your jobs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Marianne was also telling me about how the state of Georgia doesn't have prison reform, and that's what I was trying to chime in earlier, but I got my toddler in the background. But yeah, she was telling me how the state of Georgia doesn't have a prison reform bill on docket at all. Like no one's even pushing for it. And she said the only way for her to find out was to literally lobby, to go to each and every politician and literally ask them, are you opposing or are you not? Are you proponent? Felt like that was ridiculous, especially in a state that is a constant recidivism is always a complaint. So it's like if the prison system is clearly failing, then why isn't anyone, even pretending to care about reforming it?
Well, they actually are, believe it or not. I don't know if Marianne knows, but there is the Accountability in Corrections Act, which has been introduced by Shantae,
What you
Representative
say,
Kim
Representative
Schofield.
Kim? She could kiss my happy ass
Look,
on my worst
we
day.
don't we don't know how far it's gotten. Honestly, what I will tell you is that it really hasn't gotten out of committee yet on that side. She and Josh McLaurin are very huge proponents of prison reform.
They don't know what the hell they're
Supposedly,
doing. He was sitting there
but
talking about something.
So
We're
that's it.
sitting here talking about no, you don't understand. We're talking about people sitting in prison, wrongfully incarcerated, doing life. We're talking about people sitting in prison being killed in prison. They sitting here talking about the mold in the prison and how they literally paint over it. I don't give a fuck about asbestos and mold and stuff like that when I'm sitting here having
Talking about real
guards
people, real
beating the
life.
hell out of me, and when I'm having guards sitting here allowing me to be killed while in prison. Like, we need some people who understand what it's really like sitting on these boards and committees, even if they have a special interest board or committee of people who are returning citizens. Like, there's an advisory council with, I sit on plenty of advisory councils with people with lived experience. We got these people who don't have any real experience with the judicial system trying to tell them what it's like on the inside, when whenever they go in on the inside, because they're representatives, they are always cleaning it up to make it look better than what it usually looks like. And they act like they don't sit there and hear these complaints before the congressional committee or the House, when they're going through the House and talking about some of these different complaints that's going on the inside. They have people dying every day in these jails and prisons. And they have people, not just of simple things like, like you hear of stories such as, this person got killed. But what about the simple things like the fact that one of my friends, her son is in prison and he flatlined twice last week because they weren't giving him his insulin, because they don't have enough guards to make sure that he has proper medical coverage.
I was reading about a story where they was talking about the very same thing, where a guy ended up dying because he wasn't administering the medicine that he needed. And their complaint was that they don't have enough guards, and that the prison population has more than doubled since COVID, but they have not, but the population of guards has not changed at all.
Absolutely true. And you're right, Mr. Parks. There is nothing on the books, but that's not to say that it wasn't introduced or proposed. So the fact that it has been introduced and proposed, we are saying this is a performative action, be that as it may. It's not been codified as of yet, but we'll see where it goes.
Pipeline.
While it's not on the books, we're going to see if it gets out of committee, if it makes it to committee, what comes of it when it is something that's on the books, because this is supposedly what they're fighting for. What we see in so many prisons and even just municipal jails, county jails, is that the population far exceeds the capacity of the establishment. So there are establishments that were built to house perhaps 1,700 bodies, but they're housing at this time in excess of 2,600 bodies.
Yeah, Gwinnett County is 3 to a bed right now, 3 to a cell right now. The people are sleeping with heads next to toilets right now in Gwinnett County Jail.
Girl,
Gwinnett Sheriff's Jail.
I remember being in college. One of my roommates, she was in school to be a lawyer, and she was working for the system. They had 6 in a jail. You remember that in like 2000 when they had 6 in a cell in Fulton County
with the toilet?
6 in a cell.
I can believe it. It's no surprise to me. I mean, think about things like the inception of the Atlanta City Detention Center, where they were literally building a jail just to get people off the street so that the Olympics could come here and Atlanta could look a different way.
Kiana, you got real quiet. You paused. You were waiting for me to say, with your boy.
No, I was about to say, you got people like Michael Julian Bond.
You knew his name was coming out of both of our mouths. That slave master.
Sit there and refute. He will refute that was the reason that the jail was built. But I'm born and raised in Atlanta. Zone 6 my whole life, right? We know why ACDC was built. We know why they tore down Teckerwood Homes. We know why Atlanta began, the gentrification of Atlanta began all the way back then with the inception of ACDC, and why heretofore ACDC has always been used to get homeless people off of the street when they want Atlanta to look a certain way for an event. And also it serves a dual purpose to charge Black people for being homeless, for the inability to provide for themselves, to get them stuck in that carceral system, so that now there's a number attached to their body all the time, not only a prisoner number, but a dollar amount that they will make for the city, for the county, for the state, for the system, for as long as can be allowed. So we can't say that something like a city detention center is a good thing because, oh, we can get the overflow from the county jail or whatever. That sounds stupid.
No, that
But
sounds
when you listen to
ridiculous.
people
That's
like
not the
Michael
point.
Julian Bond, they say things like that. Oh, there was an excess of people on Rice Street or this, that, or the other, and
Don't figure
they
out the
had to
problem.
build this.
Don't put a band-aid on it. Figure out the problem. Figure
Yeah,
out
nah.
what's wrong. Why are
They
people
know the problem and they know what's wrong and they're comfortable with it being wrong, and they actually want to widen that wealth gap that contributes to crime and delinquency and recidivism. They want to make sure that that gap is never closed in, that we can always stay where we are. Unfortunately, you got some people like Michael Julian Bond who coon for the
No, you can't say
establishment.
that word. I had to learn that. We can't say the C word.
Oh, I'm
Baboon,
sorry.
baboon, 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 baboon,
Oh, sorry,
baboon.
y'all. I hope I don't get us kicked off, but we got some people who shuck and jive for the establishment.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Julian Bond being one of those people. Keisha Lance Bottoms being one of those people. People like Fawny Willis being one of those people. Sherry Boston, Tasha Mosley,
The list goes on. Oh,
Lynn
Do we have
Brody.
any real black political officials in office? Like, Abel Mabel,
let's
she
shout them
does her thing. Um, and then, you know,
At this
like
point, we have Antonio Lewis. I can say
Antonio
that.
Lewis, Senator Donzella James. She's
Definitely.
consistent.
You
She
know,
lost her son to this battle. You think that was coincidental?
absolutely
She's one of
not.
the few that actually go out there and speak the truth and stand for it. It's an
Yeah,
election here, and it's a lot of
absolutely
people
not.
out here making nice, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them who ain't worth two dead flies when it comes to standing up for brown and black people. They just
Not at
have the
all.
same color skin that we are in, but they
And
don't
all
live with the
skin
skin
folk
that we're
ain't
in
kin
because
folk.
they, when it's time to pass solutions, not just
Mm-hmm.
resolutions that impact us.
Right, right. I will definitely shout out Representative Park Cannon, Representative
Oh
William
yeah,
Cody, and Representative Derek Jackson. We know that they are people elected by us and who do truly stand for us. Representative Renita Shannon. These are people who I've been in the streets with. These are people who will speak to me outside of cameras. These are people who will come up and say, hey, what happened with your loved one? They'll follow up with you. They'll make sure that they get back to you. If they can't offer a solution, they'll point you in the right direction at the very least. These are people that I know for sure are doing what they do for the people of Georgia.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Much respect to them.
so I'll say this too, real quick. What do you think of the new mayor?
Nothing. I'm gonna tell you right now, and I don't care who don't like it because you already know that I don't. That's just not an issue for me. But I'm not impressed. He's completely I'm not gonna say unremarkable because I have quite a few remarks. And what I will say is that he seems intent on maintaining credibility with certain factions in the street rather than doing the right thing. I will say that his chief of staff, Courtney English, had a conversation with myself and Mr. Jimmy Hill, the father of Jimmy Atchison, and never got back to us. I will say that the mayor did the same thing, had a conversation with Mr. Hill and never got back to him. The mayor made a commitment to the families of victims of police brutality to meet with them every other month, at least once a quarter,
Yeah,
and he has not fulfilled that yet. So what I will say about the mayor named Dre, that it kills me that everybody is always so eager to jump on the bandwagon just because a person is black and
Mm.
because they feel like that person's election is an affront to society. It's not. That mayor named Dre ain't no different than the mayor named Keisha Lance Bottoms. That mayor named Dre ain't no different than the mayor named Kasim Reed. That mayor named Dre ain't done a damn thing so far for black people. So what I'm waiting to see is, who are you and what are you about?
yeah,
Who are you and what are you about?
that's real, Kiana.
You know, he does things like that whole airport workers union and contract and that type of thing. He did that. He facilitated that, but why? Because as a mayor, you couldn't be dumb enough to let your airport shut down because they were ready to strike. I'm not impressed. You
Young
made a
for doing
decision
what
which was
you're supposed
logical.
to do.
Yeah.
Thank you,
That's
but you
about
made a
losing it. That's about losing
absolutely,
that airport, losing those contracts because that airport, people don't realize that Fulton County and
absolutely.
Clayton County both neighbor that airport. And right now,
Yes.
those contracts are going to Clayton County and not Fulton County.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taking money out of the pockets in Fulton County. That's what that's about.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that politics, especially Atlanta politics with these old Negroes, is about anything more than money,
Money and business as usual. That's absolutely what it's about. And at the end of the day, this is a man that voted for Cop City. This is a man who's putting a bunch of money into a police budget.
wow, I
When
didn't
you
know
have,
that.
oh,
I
absolutely.
didn't know he voted for
Bunch
Cop
of
City.
money going into, oh yeah, he voted for Cop City. He voted for Cop City and tried to give the excuse that it's a public safety training complex, so you would have firefighters and first responders who would be trained there as well. At the end of the day, you're into terrorizing black bodies just like the rest of these people, Andre Dickens, and you're not exempt from my ire. You're not.
You do not want to feel the wrath of Kiana Jones more. That is one wrath that you don't want. You don't want that heat. You better try. You better keep on with Young Thug and the rest of them, but you don't want Kiana Jones more on your butt. Not
Look,
in Atlanta.
man, I am I can't even say disappointed. I'm just sickened because it makes my stomach turn, honestly. It makes my stomach turn to see what my city has become. This is a place where I was born and raised, where I had hoped to bring my children back to show them something different than the mean streets of Jersey. No, I never thought that I would come home to this. I never thought that I would come home to see Black people being oppressed in a way that we experience today. I never thought that I would come to the cradle of the civil rights movement to have my civil rights not only violated, but at stake and on the line every day that I wake up and take another breath. I never thought that I would have to worry about whether to send my children to school, not because I don't feel safe or because I don't like the neighborhood, but because I wonder if they're going to antagonize my child or even teach him the way he should be taught. If my child's teacher is going to be able to teach history as it is, or if she's going to have to continue to whitewash it even more than it already is. Never in a million years did I think that I would come home to this Atlanta. But nevertheless, this is where I am. And so, since I find myself in this position, the only thing that I know to do is what I've done all my life, and that's fight. Fight for me, fight for my children, fight for my community, fight for the people who can't fight for themselves, because it's not right that we have people who are oppressed to the point that they're locked behind a cell door where they can't get out, not because they don't have the will to, but because we have a system that's locked up so tight that it won't allow justice to prevail. It seems that the only people who get justice in the criminal justice system are the criminals.
Mm.
Those judges who sit and want to charge R. Kelly with RICO charges when he's a whole pedophile, but you don't want to charge him for violating young children because you think that's okay, because that's what rich white men do every day. Whether it's Matt Gaetz, whether it's Donald Trump, who bragged about it and still got elected because the same sick ass people go out and vote for him, because those same sick ass people are the 1% in this country and they think it's okay because the white male patriarchy has been lending itself to rape, molestation, and the oppression of Black female bodies since the dawn of time.
Literally
Right.
their culture.
And that's the system that we live under.
And speaking of, even I was speaking to an activist today about my story, and she was the first place she went to was talking about how black body parts are selling for more on the open market, on the black market, than any
Absolutely.
other
I
ethnic
just read
group.
about that.
Absolutely. Human
These
trafficking in this country, in Atlanta being the hub of human trafficking in the United States. When you think about the amount of Black women and Black children that go missing
every day. This
every
weekend, y'all, we had like
second.
6 Amber Alerts this weekend.
Yes. And what happened with one? It's
I said this whole gun
disgusting.
reform thing is just, I don't know, it makes me
It's a
weary because
distraction.
it just seems like, come
It's
on,
a
guys,
distraction.
let's be real.
It's a
Every
distraction.
time y'all try to push a issue, it becomes the only issue in the world, the
It's a
most important
distraction.
issue in the world. Like,
Not
It's
to
all a
make,
say,
distraction.
not to
like
say
make
that it
Martin
was
Luther
less
King so
tragic,
small.
but
Exactly.
look how quickly the shooting in Uvalde overshadowed the racist attack in Buffalo. Look how quickly it happened.
In no time.
Mhm.
We didn't
Mhm.
even get it wasn't even time for Buffalo to have a magazine cover because
That's right.
by the time that magazine would have been printed, it was another one.
I've come to the realization in this country that we are, as a whole country, we're afraid to do anything for black people and black people alone. We
Right.
always have to say minorities together, but we're afraid to say black.
We can't say black and we have to say
But
black and
everybody can
I just
have,
started saying black and brown when I ran for office when I realized that my brown skin mattered. I thought I was black all these years. They
you
had to
are,
let me know. I know I
I
am.
used
You
to
don't see me
wear
switching,
I
girl.
used to wear a shirt in middle school that said
you
I
super
am
black.
black.
You super black. But the
And
crazy thing is,
it
we find ourselves doing this because this is what's promoted. It's got to be black and brown. Well, no, I want to do something just for black people,
Or
period.
inclusive.
Absolutely. But it
I
never includes us.
it
Inclusive is
doesn't.
never inclusive of black people. And I have an issue with society on the whole in that they don't want to do something that's just black. So
Hmm.
everybody gets to be proud of who they are. Everybody gets to have something specifically tailored for their people, except for black people.
Like our
And if any one
anti-hate
of these
bill that we
fools want
waiting
to say
on.
any one of these fools want to say something about Juneteenth, I got a backhand for you. Simply because Juneteenth ain't no celebration. Ain't nothing to celebrate because we were literally a whole group of people who were still enslaved when there was supposedly a formal decree that went out that ended it. So what are we celebrating?
Right.
We still
Oppression.
celebrating oppression? Absolutely. That's what it sounds like. I need people to get comfortable with making other people uncomfortable. Get comfortable making white people uncomfortable. Get comfortable making anybody uncomfortable who got a problem with black.
Amen.
Absolutely.
We gotta have you, Kiana. I'm
I hear
kidnapping you.
that.
You coming on every week. I'm gonna have to go talk to your husband. Like, can she please, please, please? Can I borrow her for an
Oh
hour? Maybe an hour and 15 to 30 minutes. But yeah, we have, like really and truly beyond making people uncomfortable, we got to get comfortable with being all right in our own skin and saying,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I buy black, I support black.
That right
And,
there.
there's
And it
times where
has
I
to
might
be,
buy something else, but we got to get okay with saying, I'll spend $2 more on this shirt to say that
Yes.
it's from a black
Yes.
designer
and we
Yes.
gotta have
because,
patience with our people. We gotta have patience with our people. I see people all the time complaining about shopping with black people. Oh well, why it's gonna take 7 to 10 business days, and why my customer service? Because we don't
We
have
don't have
a
the
call
infrastructure.
center. We don't have a call center working
We
for our
don't.
small businesses, y'all. We don't. That's
That's
the
right.
reality of it.
That's
We don't
right.
not
have
necessarily. We gotta start
Now,
getting
customer
okay
service is
with
like
key,
being
though.
professional is
we
one thing, but complaining about the small things that and not respecting the hustle of what it takes to even be a black person that's an entrepreneur in America.
Well, nah,
Mhm.
I can't agree with that. We got a few minutes. I'll say this. It's the
Mhm.
difference between being an entrepreneur in America and a hustler in America. As black people, we got to step our game up and be okay with being entrepreneurs and stop being
That's right.
hustlers
That's
because
Well,
right.
and
nobody wants to
not
get
addressing
hustled.
them, but
And we
There's a
can't
way
forget
to do
customer
business,
service.
and there's so many. We're in Atlanta. We are setting a tone. There's a lot of things missing, but one thing that you can get for free in Atlanta is some free business advice being black. You can get that anywhere
That's
in the
the truth.
US. It's called the SBA, minority owned business, woman owned business, with someone like me with a mental health disability. So
That's
when we
right.
give out this free advice, you got to tap in to get this
Free
free
game.
business and
Get up
start
on
setting
free
up our
game.
businesses the same way that our counterparts are. That's what
Absolutely.
separates us. And we got
Absolutely.
to start looking at hiring other people so that we can grow as a community. And we
Mhm.
got to start paying real livable wages to each other
You better say
because
that.
there is no freedom in me being free and you being oppressed. That
Hey,
is it don't work that way.
you
We
said
are
something.
supposed to come together as people and unify and pull each other up, not
That's
one
right.
push and one pull. or one
Mm-hmm.
pull and one push.
That's
We
right.
got to come together.
You saying it right there. That's so important. The lost art of customer service. It cures a lot. It cures a lot. We ain't necessarily got to be oh so professional because we black. However, customer service goes
No,
a
customer
long way.
service, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
If
and
you
I'll just
start
say
with
this
Customer
that,
part.
patience in general
if
with
you
Black
start with
people,
that, you will
especially
build up to the professionalism. You
And we
will.
have to remember this, especially when it comes to getting to the bag. If you see a Shantae McLaughlin, a Kiana Jones Moore, or a Nikkei Rebel on an application, that automatically lets the bank know, lets the computer know. Your zip code alone lets them know what nationality
That's
you
right.
are.
That's right.
Inside of these social security numbers is coded our
Mm-hmm.
nationality.
Mm-hmm.
So with our
Mm-hmm.
nationality being coded in our in our social security numbers, where they're kicking us out of the system, so that we're
That's
locked
right.
out of loans,
That's
so
right.
that we're
That's
locked
right.
out of
That's
resources.
right.
We
Mm-hmm.
have to stick together when we learn of a resource, and we got to pull each other up.
That's right.
The
That's
time
right.
is now, because ain't our black men are sitting in prison. They
That's
locking
right.
us up at 700% times the national average.
Left
So
and
with
right.
us, with brown, black, pink, polka dot women going to prison, and
Yes.
all of our
Yes.
black men sitting in prison, who's gonna be left on the outside
That's right.
raising the children.
raising the
The
children?
children raising each other.
The children raising each other, going to prison right along with us if we don't do something about this
That's the
broken
truth.
system. So
That's the truth.
this has been Unjust. This has been Shantae McLaughlin. Come on, ladies. Who else is on here with me?
Okay, Rebel and Miss Kiana Jones Moore.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. And let me
Thank
figure
you
this
so
out,
much.
y'all. Uh-oh. like that.